Chandra Willis-Kasa, and I'm the daughter of Warren and Ann Willis. From the book of the Bible, Genesis 50:20, you meant to harm us, but we will continue to make it good through Jesus Christ. On September 25th, 2018, at approximately 5 a.m., my family's lives changed forever. This change was due to a selfish decision by 6 men, including Mr. Foreman. My mother has been in the hospital since September 25th for 130 days and has had over 50 surgeries on her abdomen. Her entire abdomen, from top to bottom, was open for 60 days and could not be closed on its own. Skin had to be grafted from her legs to cover the organs in her abdomen. Per the head surgeon, my mother almost died 3 times in the operating room due to Williams, Foreman, and the other defendants because they shot and stabbed her. My mother's health and quality of life cannot be reversed. My father, was beaten in front of one of his convenience store locations by Mr. Foreman and the other men. His wrists were bound. He was kidnapped, put in the floorboard of his car, while Mr. Foreman and the men sat on top of him. The men drove him to his home, which was 40 minutes away. My dad was then thrown in his garage floor by Foreman and the other defendants. My father's face was beaten and kicked to a point he was unrecognizable. His hands were stomped on to the point the flesh rolled up on the top of his hands, and you could see his ligaments. His eyes were sealed shut due to the huge black eyes from the beating. His right eye, he now has vision problems with it, and his right cheek fractured and broken. And he still continues to deal with vision problems, equilibrium problems, due to the beating he received from Foreman and the other defendants. My father's car was set on fire by Foreman and the other defendants. My mother was threatened to be raped with a broom by Foreman and these other men. We'll say that one more time. My mother was pulled out of her bed, dragged out by her hair, dragged her down the hallway. They asked her where a broom was so they could rape her with a broom. My parents' home, they worked so hard for all their lives, was invaded and doesn't feel like home anymore. If an employee had not made that early morning call and telling us she sees my father's Birkenstock shoes that we know Mr. Willis always wears, and blood outside the Landrum store, and then another employee going to my parents' home to get my mom and to bring her to the Landrum store, and this employee then realizing once he got to their home that something wasn't right. He could see the upstairs lights on, and he could also see the open garage with blood on the floor. This employee then called the police. I firmly believe if these actions had not been taken, I do believe my parents would not be alive. My daughter, my parents' granddaughter, it's her senior year. My daughter is named after my mother, Ann, and they adore each other. My mother missed every single football game, every single cheer competition of her granddaughters, and these events from her senior year, they can never be gotten back. Your Honor, we respectfully ask you to deny bond for Mr. Foreman. I'm here to tell you that these men cannot be back in society. This was a planned and calculated attack. The defendant, Mr. Foreman, and the other men are attempted murderers, arsonists, kidnappers, robbers, and a conspiring threat to society. And the majority of them have a past criminal history. If Foreman were to be let out on bond, it would damage my family's quality of life even more, sir, even more than he already has, due to our fear of them not being behind bars. Your Honor, we ask in the strongest possible way that Mr. Foreman not receive bond. From the book of the Bible, Amos 50:5-24, may justice roll down like a mighty river. Mr. Foreman, we prayed for you before we even knew who you were. We still pray for you, and we forgive you. and we pray for your salvation every single day. And we ask that the good Lord and the court of law for complete justice. Your Honor, thank you so much for allowing me to speak. We are strong.